Some say the world will end in fire. Some say in ice. What I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. But if it had to perish twice, I know enough of hate to say that ice is also great and would suffice. Hey, this is your host, Alec Mohibian, with a quick message before we continue. Based in that great but very troubled place, Hollywood, California, Filthy Armenian Adventures is an interdimensional travel program that takes you deep into the cultural mysteries of our time. In search of truth, in search of gold, in search of lost friends and unsung heroes, in search of John Galt's motor. This show is your antidote to the black pill. This is your guide to the places, the personalities, the ideas and creations the enemies of man don't want you to know. This is your techno-noir investigation into the good, the evil, and the God hiding under our noise. This is where you get the news before it breaks, before it blows, before it burns. The show is supported entirely by patrons at patreon.com/filthyarmenian. As a patron, you get access to twice as many adventures, including the most important ones, the ones with the real facts. Plus, regular brief smoke break spiritual reports on topics of the day. As a patron, you also get exclusive access to our Smash live events. Ask anyone who's attended one, and they will tell you it's an experience you'll never forget. It's very easy to keep Filthy Armenian Adventures alive. You can still listen to the show on your favorite app like Spotify or Apple, and you can do so with the pride that you're putting a little bit of money where your soul is. More patrons means more fuel, more topics, more investigations, more miracles, more secret locations, and forbidden territories around the world, and the world that is Los Angeles, our post-apocalyptic headquarters. It means we'll be able to track down more enchanting figures in the landscape, dare them to abandon their masks, and join our quest out of the darkness and into a golden age. Patreon.com/filthyarmenian. Thank you for being one of the good ones, and enjoy the show. I'm standing in front of Palisades Elementary Charter School, where I enrolled in the 3rd grade around the year of 1993. And it was my introduction to Pacific Palisades. I was transferred there from Kenter Canyon in Brentwood, both public schools. Kenter Canyon nestled into a canyon, the OJ Canyon. And my mom had a freak out over the cable power lines going over the school because somebody who worked at the school got cancer. Some very lady everyone liked got cancer. And my mom got it into her head, peak Maha style, that the power lines couldn't cause cancer. So she pulled me and my sister out and sent us over to Palisades Elementary Charter School. And boy, was I sobbing the night before my first day of school here. Sobbing sobbing in pain. I was so sad to be leaving all my friends behind at Kenner Canyon to get cancer, while I would escape cancer-free, radiation-free, to some new place where I didn't know anybody. I was absolutely traumatized about switching schools here. But there was a soft landing. I got here. I don't remember suffering at all. I don't remember suffering at all on this campus. Not even on day one. And the reason might be that my teacher, third grade, was a lady by the name of Lori Petrick, Mrs. Petrick. She was beautiful. She was like, you know, the type who would have been, she looked like exactly like a former Playboy, Playmate, bombshell type, but her hair had grayed and whitened, and she had assumed an entirely maternal personality, at least as far as I could see with my little stupid eyes. And she was the queen of this school. She was the one. She was the rock star of this school. She had a general store inside of her classroom. Okay. And in this general store were stocked all kinds of items that you could purchase with tickets or points or dollars or whatever earned through your schoolwork. So every assignment and every test came with a certain number of rewards, point scores depending on how well you did, and those would be, given in a form of cash that you could spend at the general store. There's a word for this appeal, this incentivization scheme she had geniusly hacked up to make everything so great. I wonder if there was what that word is. Let me see if I can find it. My old noggin. Not as sharp as I was in those scholastic days. Could it be capitalism? So Mrs. Petrick had a general store, and the items were things like, I discovered all kinds of different candy at that general store. I mean, my favorite were the Jolly Ranchers, always the sour ones, lemon, orange. She had Jolly Ranchers in there for sure. She had those fireballs in there, those like really hot cinnamon balls. She had Jawbreakers in there. She had all kinds of candy, a large variety that I definitely sampled. But you don't want to spend all your money on like candy like a you-know-what, which there was one of in the class who did. But you want to save up. You want to save up for something nicer. Perhaps a little trinket, a bauble, like invisible ink. That's kind of sexy and, espionage coded. The invisible ink. There were others. Again, there was a whoopee cushion. You could buy a whoopee cushion. There was other little trinkets like that, fun little things. But the main prize, the highest shelf item, were 2 tickets to see the Los Angeles Dodgers, right behind home plate. For Mrs. Petrick and her husband Bud had season tickets, the best seats in the house, right behind home plate. And that's when the seats got that's before they added a dugout thing later. That's when they were a little bit behind. So you really had the perfect view. You weren't too close, because they were the original right behind home plate seats, not the ones they've added in front of that since. So the top prize were those 2 seats. You have something like $2,000 or points or whatever tickets to get those seats. Only one student, I recall, by the end of the year had saved up enough to get those seats. You had to be a really good student. I was not that good a student. I was fine. And now you may surmise from the fact that she had those seats, Mrs. Petrick, that she was quite wealthy. And this indeed she was. Her husband was, I think, a real estate mogul or something, Bud Petrick. They lived in a beautiful house, very personally designed, with tons of stained was her own personal hobby, the stained glass. And instead of having an Etsy store for that fucking stained glass, you know, like all them bitches do now, she was a teacher. She chose to be a teacher, a third grade, the rock star teacher of the school, and she just did it for love of the game. She loved it. She loved being a teacher. She was the perfect teacher. She was tough. She was compassionate. She was like sharp, sympathetic. She was funny. She had all the tools of the perfect third grade teacher. Couldn't do it better. You wouldn't want your kids in a better place in front of anyone else. She was perfect. And I have no doubt that despite her initially kind of intimidating, slightly, grandeur, I have no doubt that especially coming off of that bitch second grade teacher I had at Cantor, Mrs. Knutson, she was a breath of fresh air, and she totally welcomed me into the Palisades with golden arms. And my previous teacher in second grade is the one teacher, well, there were two, but the first teacher that I really hated. She told us that Santa Claus wasn't real. She was this bratty Jewish princess who'd get into bad moods, and I have a feeling I would think she's pretty funny and cool now, or as a grown-up. But as a kid, it was bad. I got into trouble. I kind of ran with the mafia crowd. In those days, got myself into some trouble. Got me grounded a few times. Had a little klepto thing going on. Second grade, I was going down the wrong pipeline. Second grade, so Palisades turned me around. Miss Petrick. She taught me to respect authority. You can respect authority that deserves respect. She taught me that sometimes authority knows what it's doing, even if it's rich. And that year, academically, was dominated by Native American stuff, Indian stuff. I mean, that was my Dances of Wolves year, third grade. Back then, 1993, this was the peak of that stuff culturally. And it really, really dominated, which makes it all the more charming when you think about Mrs. Petrick. She was, now that I'm making the connection, she was my fucking Palia. She was Palia in the Philadelphia woods with the teepees and the arrowheads and the dream catchers and the totem poles. That's what she was for me, except, in the beginning. What a woman. And so we did, and it was brutal on me. I was not good at arts and crafts. I never have been, never will be. I was a sports kid. I was a sports kid. I was fine with anything. I was fine with like English, spelling, and like basic math. The math in those days I was still good at. But this history stuff where we did like elaborate paper mache teepee, we built a full-on dream catcher, like the real deal dream catcher, like authentically built. That was probably my most successful creation of all this shit. The totem pole was, I remember, just these arduous things with paper mache and glue and so careful. And these were the big projects of the year. The teepee was the worst. The totem pole, you can cobble something together. The dreamcatcher was really hard, but at least it was satisfying, and I hung it over my bed, since at the time I was very, very afraid of bad dreams. I'd get them all the time, and I'd have my mom wish them away before I'd go to sleep. Like, tell the bad dreams to go away. My mom was my dream catcher, basically. And I added a physical one, and I think that took the edge off a little bit from having to ask my mom. So, you know, it was worth it. Mrs. Petrick. For years after that, every Halloween, since we would go trick-or-treating here in Palisades, perfect place to trick-or-treat. I would see Bob Saget with his kids. It was like, you know, it was like the perfect sitcom place to trick-or-treat. And we would go up to the canyon, up the hill to her house, which is on a hill, and we would bring her a box of Lady Godiva, her favorite, which my dad, you know, it was my dad's hospitality to bring my teachers chocolates, you know, I guess, and stuff like that. So we would bring her a box of Godiva, my dad and I, Godiva chocolates, which she loved, and she would talk about those chocolates for days in class afterwards. She would be thanking me for those chocolates. It was our little bribe. Not that it meant anything, but she liked me, and she loved those chocolates, and we would take them up for years afterwards. We would take them up. It was wonderful, and unfortunately, the only reason we stopped dropping by is because at a way too young an age, she got leukemia, and she died. She was 49, Mrs. Petrick. Only maybe 10 years after I was in her class. Very sad. Maybe less than 10 years, actually. It was probably more like 6 or 7. Very, very sad, but she was great. And she also, you know, I loved her so much that my parents, they like signed me up. They like in the silent auction got a bowling trip that she was hosting. So it was the first time I ever went bowling, and I think that was the year after. I was already not in her class anymore. But we all went bowling, Bayshore Lanes in Santa Monica. Big McDonald's run before that. We went to McDonald's. And then she ended up giving her season tickets for the next day to my dad when he came to pick me up. So we went to the we got to see her tickets. Even though I wasn't a good enough student, I found another way to get those tickets, which was to simply be liked by and you don't have to be that smart if you're not hateful. So I fell in love with bowling because of that. That's what started my whole like lifelong patriotic passion for bowling, and I still have a very soft spot for bowling. It all started there at Bayshore Lanes with Mrs. Petrick. So, you know, bowling. I'm sure we can find other earlier patriotic impulses or habits, but that's an early one. That's not insignificant. That was also the year, come to think of it, now that I'm thinking of it, that was exactly the year that I also, my sports fandom clicked in. That was precisely the year it happened, 3rd grade. I'd been going to the games with my dad's for a few, with my dad, I only had one, for a few years. I'd been going since I was, small with him, but I played it passionately myself, but I never had a connection to rooting for the outcome of the game never affected me. And I struggled even to follow what exactly was happening from a distance. It never mattered to me until this year. Until specifically that year, in which the UCLA football team went to the Rose Bowl under Wayne Cook and J.J. Stokes, and the basketball team I think lost in the first round in a classic Jim Herrick blunder. Next year, the basketball team would win the national championship. Okay, but that's another story. The point is that I started to believe. My belief was activated in via sports here. That whatever you want to call it, that capacity for belief, for fanaticism, for creating meaning out of what is, objectively nothing, investing a sort of meaning in something that is not necessarily, doesn't bring it with itself. It all happened here under Mrs. Petrick's watch. It's interesting sometimes to, track these things. I've never even thought of that before. Mrs. Petrick, 4th grade, I had another teacher that I liked really much and who liked me quite a bit. And it was a very different sort of connection. Mrs. Petrick was the Christian, bombshell, beauty, all-American. Although Bud was Jewish, so technically we would celebrate both in the this was a very Jewish school, so we had days off on Yom Kippur and even Rosh Hashanah sometimes, as I recall. We had in our Christmas pageant and Christmas break was called holiday. They were big on the holiday thing, or winter, whatever the fucking thing. And we sang in Mrs. Petrick's class at the winter pageant. We, in addition to whatever Christmas song we sang the 8 days of Hanukkah. On the first day of Hanukkah, my true love sent to me a bagel and some cream cheese. So 4 latkes, whatever. It was funny, funny song, humor, classic Judeo-Christian traditions, man. So anyway, but nevertheless, her persona, even the capitalism, it was all very American and Christian. And in 4th grade, from the warm fires, the hearth of Mrs. Petrick, the ice queendom of Mrs. Pottishman, this little petite Jewess, somewhat Ayn Randian, but different kind, slightly fairer overall. Big eyes, might have even been blue eyes, but I don't even remember. The eyes they feel dark, even if they were blue, which tells you something. Short hair. She was a very petite, very skinny. She actually looks a lot like Anna Hachian, generally speaking, though she had lighter hair. But think Anna Hachian build. And she immediately, with her dark eyes, I don't know why, but she took a liking to me eventually. And she was tough. She was a tough one too. She was demanding. And that year I kind of like figured out how to get good grades for the first time. I was just inspired to, other than driven by, I was obviously scared. I was obviously intimidated greatly not to get bad grades by my folks at home. But I was like, I wanted to perform for her too. She inspired a little bit of, you want to impress her a little bit, not be a total idiot, getting that glare, having her glare at you and think lowly of you. And she's the one who, well after many of the other kids were added to it, she is the one who nominated me for GATE, the gifted thing that Zoran Zaramzi wants to shut down in Zoran City. And I loved the gifted class, and I had such a chip on my shoulder because I knew all the other kids, including Joshua Haskell, who now is a reporter at ABC. All the other kids I knew, Brad Green, Stephanie, they were all thought gifted before I was. But Pottishman's added me in there, and I loved it. It was like a fun class. We created a newspaper in that gifted class, and in that newspaper, I launched a campaign against dog shit on the lawn in front of the fucking school, which was always full of dog shit. I launched a campaign, and I wrote my first polemic against letting your dog shit on all over the school, in front of the school's lawn. And by golly, it actually had results. Signs and placards were put up all over the tree. Some of the moms took it up, and the campaign was put into effect. And I think it even made it into the local newspaper. There was a fatwa successfully initiated against dog shit on the lawn. So, don't say that I'm not an activist. Has Greta Thunberg ever spared any part of the world of dog shit? I don't think so. So that was thanks to Mrs. Pottishman. We would reenact court cases in Gifted. I liked Gifted a lot. Mrs. Pottishman liked me because my assignments were funny. There was, however, one assignment that put her affections to the test. We were handed out in class this sheet with 4 grids on it, and we were supposed to design something connecting the dots on the grid into some sort of design. That's what I remember it being. And I thought I really had, I thought I was really onto something. I figured out this nice little design. It was really symmetrical. I colored it in between I drew the outline. And I turned it in with great pride. And her face went cold. And as we were leaving at the end of class, she asked me to stay. And I could tell from the look on her face it wasn't good. She looks me in the eye and she says, "Do you know about the Holocaust in Nazi Germany, where 6 million Jews died?" And I was rattled. I did not know what she was talking about. We hadn't yet. Holocaust education was going to begin the following year. Hadn't been to the Museum of Tolerance yet. That was next year. So I didn't know what she was talking about. And that's when she informed me that the design that I was so proud of, that I had drew on the grid, was a swastika. And I pleaded my innocence, and I think that ultimately she forgave me. Or maybe she didn't. No, I think she did. But maybe that slight little suspicion added an extra spice to our relationship from that point forward. Anyway, Mrs. Pottishman is now Mrs. Gold. God bless her. And that's also 4th grade is where I became friends with Kevin and Matt, Kevin Pazarande and Matt Dintenfoss. And we were the crew for the rest of, we were a 3-man wrecking crew of smartasses for the rest of our time here. And those were the first those were the first real sleepovers I had, and we were quite a team. We were quite a trio. I miss those days thinking about them. It was really sweet. And then when we got into 5th grade, it was the first time that I truly learned how, the 3 of us truly learned, how inept authority, after all, can be. We were in a class in 5th grade that was mixed with 4th graders because they had some sort of scheme that wasn't a very good idea to have mixed classes, at least partially. And everything was lowest common denominator, and suddenly Matt, Kevin, and I were too smart for the class. And the teacher, Mrs. Maxwell, who was something of a wishy-washy hippie type, very skinny, tall, kind of a Portlandia, but not without being strident. Like, you know, Portlandia before or without any stridency, kind of just absent-minded. She was so overwhelmed by us, and she was complaining to our parents that we're too smart for the class, and we need to calm down and not be so smart. And the problem is that the class, and I'm sure we were annoying, but the problem is that the class was we were just boys bursting with energy. The class was being tailored to the fourth graders, lowest common denominator style. And, you know, we were just getting super impatient with it. But it was still a very fun year. Got straight A's easily. We did like stock market stuff in the class that year, I remember. We had fun projects. And of course, Oregon Trail on the computers. Who would ever want to stop playing that? But from Mrs. Maxwell, there was that initial lesson, because I was too young to appreciate it with Mrs. Knutson, disbeliever in Santa Claus that she was. But there, with Mrs. Maxwell, there was that first red pilling, in a way, that those in power are not necessarily in charge, etc. In third grade, I should say, before I made my real friends, I didn't really make any friends in third grade, now that I think of it. I was sort of a loner, but, you know, I'd play sports and participated with everything, but I never hit it off with anyone that I can recall. I was an outsider then. But I did really love the retarded kids. I was so charmed by the retarded kids. They were calling it special ed, but it was not at all rude to say mentally retarded. That's how the teachers were all referring to those kids. The class was special ed, but the kids were retarded, you know. And I especially connected. I would volunteer for the retards on recess and lunch. They could use volunteers when they were out playing and stuff, because of, you know. So I volunteered, and I was paired with, or I just was, you know, connected to. I was most attracted to this one named Patrick, clearly much older than the rest of us. Huge head, you know, big head, kind of, I guess, Downsy head, but he had Tourette's as well. I mean, Patrick had the jackpot of issues, because he could swear. He swore nonstop, and that was what made him so funny. You know, he'd say, "Fucking bitch, get me the ball, asshole." It was just, I mean, you know, you have to be a third grader to appreciate how, like, you know, wow, you know, that's like, I think there's a South Park episode in this very premise. Right, where Cartman pretends to be this kid actually looked like Cartman, straight up. So I would play with Patrick, and that was my thing in third grade. So I just only mention that because, you know, I made sure. I mean, I have a long history with retards. And now that I come to think of it, there's one other point about this education that I got at Pali Elementary that I guess I should note. I was put into a speech therapy. I was put into speech therapy to get rid of my lisp, because apparently I had a super faggy lisp, as many kids do. And my mom was alarmed, even though most kids, I think, lisp until they stop lisping. My mom was super alarmed, because because my doctor, my pediatrician, Dr. Nakashima, told her that, you know, if I keep on lisping, people are going to think I'm gay. I mean, imagine that. So, you know, it'd be good if we do something about this lisp. Lest you mislead people in the future into thinking that you're gay. So my mom signed me up for the speech therapist, who did an amazing job. I gotta say, I learned how to stop lisping within a few weeks. I've never learned anything so easy. I mean, it was technically a little bit arduous, but it took a lot of it haunts your mind for a while, because you have to govern yourself, like every word, until it becomes second nature. So I think it was actually much harder than I'm making it out to be. I'm just so, proud of myself for having aced that test. And as I recall, because my problem was with S's, so my name is Truman Capote. I'm not typing, I'm writing. And I just love some strange. Anyway, I don't know. But it was I also kind of had a vampiric accent to go with the lisp. I mean, but thank you, Dr. Nakashima, for keeping an eye out for me. The key was that I remember now, the lesson that I had no trouble learning was to make the sound, pretend that you're saying a TS, so that you're saying tss, tss, TS. Sausage. Suck my dick. And that's what taught my tongue the action necessary to not lisp. If maybe that'll help some of you. That's all it was. It's hard to think of a more valuable lesson, by the way. And also right next to Pali Elementary were two places that had a big impact on my life. Well, one of them is Pizza Domino's, which just has a big impact on anyone's life. I mean, pizza is the delight of the night when you're a kid. Ordering pizza to watch shows and movies with your friends, and pizza parties, and everything revolves around pizza as a kid. When I hear about kids who didn't have pizza growing up because their parents are faggots, I just think, wow. Not letting your kid eat pizza, that's like child abuse. That's worse than molesting them. I mean, that's like, I can't even think of anything as bad other than outright neglect, starvation, or anything like that. Everything revolved around pizza, man. All the way through, through college. But when you're a kid, especially, because there's no other game in town. Pizza is an event. There was a Domino's right here, a very small one, like just a counter, basically, inside of an office, a little tiny office park. But it had at the time, it had their twisty bread, as we called it, which is their garlic bread. And if you were really flush, you could get the twisty bread with cheese, which is and it was only, the twisty bread was, I think, in those days, only $1.50. It was at most $3, but I think $3 is what the cheese bread was, and the twisty bread was $1. It was a substantial hunk of bread, like it was a real treat. It wasn't like a tiny little piece like they'll give you at a hipster restaurant now. It was a success, Anybody, you guys remember, Domino's. $1.50. So that made it just enough if you saved your lunch money of around $1.50 or something around there, saved a little coin here and coin there. You could afford a twisty bread. And that was a wonderful thing to have, just down the block from where I go to school. And across the street was the final location of Bubba's card shop, the sports card shop where I became enchanted and transfixed with the entire business of trading cards, and would go on to dominate my middle school years. That's a separate story, but it all began at Bubba's, and he's the one who showed me a little bit of the behind the curtain of how a card shop is run, where you buy the product, where you buy the boxes that you sell packs out of, which I would eventually do from the wholesaler, and peddle the packs in class, in school. And that the excitement of that, you know, because at the time in those years, I wanted to be an NBA player, you know, as one does. And that was my obsession. It had no other career was in the offing, in my mind as a little kid. So developing this sports card habit, addiction, and then realizing the only way to maintain the addiction of being immersed in the cardboard images of heroic athletes, and it was to traffic in those images and be a businessman. That way you can support your habit of being surrounded by cardboard images of muscular men. But because you've lost your lisp, you're able to take orders over the phone from all over the world, from buyers who have all kinds of emotional reasons for buying what they buy. The player that they want, the card that they want, the box that they want. And so I was able to fashion a mostly mail order, occasional trade show, and eBay website, sports card business. From what I learned at Bubba's, right across the street from here. The main schoolhouse of Palisades Elementary Charter School on 800 Via de la Paz. Just a stone's throw from Sunset Boulevard as it makes its way through the village of Pacific Palisades. Just make a left off Sunset and you'll be here in no time. Same block. The schoolhouse is still standing. And the sign says Pali will rebuild. But everything around the schoolhouse, everything around the schoolhouse, 360 degrees up into the hills and down toward the sea, is gone. Everything is gone. The Methodist church across the street is gone. Bubba's card shop is gone. All the houses surrounding, all in this beautiful trick-or-treat neighborhood, gone. Gone, gone, gone. It is wiped. It's all gone, and most of the trees are gone, the beautiful green trees, although some still stand. One wonders how. How did these trees survive where nothing else but the very, very, very occasional buildings, such as this beautiful main schoolhouse, is gone? And driving up here through the neighborhood, and immediately across the line from Brentwood to Palisades, everything disappears, and it's all gone, and it's all gone. And all of a sudden, what was this enclave, this beautiful, not quite a suburb, not quite the city. It's technically part of Los Angeles. It's not its own thing. It's a neighborhood, but it's kind of a little bit more, complicated than your typical neighborhood. It's big. It's bigger than a single neighborhood. It's you could call it a small city, a town, a village. This perfectly kept secret in the California coast that nobody ever talked about, really, compared to like a Malibu, a Beverly Hills. Palisades didn't come up so much, and it wasn't a place that tourists frequented unless they were hiking or on the beach, but not really trickling up too much from the beach. It was a local place. It was a local treasure. And my mom ruined everything, including our family, so that I could go to school somewhere like here. Specifically here. And it's gone. This is the place where Rod Serling wrote The Twilight Zone. This is the place in which he wrote all those endless stories about someone going back to their idyllic American childhood town, small town USA, and finding out that you can't go home again. Don't we know it? Because it's gone. This is the town where Ray Bradbury lived for so long, riding around on his bicycle, leaving stories out to cool on the windowsill, as he would put it. Gone. This is where Kobe would practice in his early years before moving to Orange County. Gone. This is where Vlade Divac would run around. This magical, magical place. It's gone. And it wasn't an accident. It wasn't a mishap. It was destroyed. It was destroyed. And now they say it's probably gone forever. Because how can you ever rebuild something like this? The streets are like, it's like Godzilla has ambled through them. There are these huge impresses or incesses into the asphalt, and then there are warts coming out of the asphalt in other places. Like, it must be the roots of the trees that are about to explode or something. I don't know what those are. These huge, like, monster footprints all over the streets. And it feels like it's so cleared out, it feels like you can roll a bowling ball from the hill down into the ocean with ease and get a strike. Just right down Via de la Paz. Like at Bayshore Lanes. except no bumpers, because everything's gone. You can see the ocean all the way from my elementary school. You can see clear through to the ocean. Very, very near and big, because all the houses that once stood in between this place and the ocean are gone. And because something like this can happen, could possibly happen in the way that it did, the smart money will tell you that this place is never coming back in any way that resembles the paradise it once was for so long, for so many generations, of which I was one of the last, thanks be to God. The smart money says it is not coming back. But we'll see about that. We'll see about that, won't we, friends? We'll see about that, because as it says on the other side of the school sign, which I'm only seeing just now, hope.
To your soul. You seek will never be found at home. The love that you need will never be found at home. Run away, turn away, run away, turn away, run away. Run away, turn away, run away, turn away, run
This episode of Filthy Armenian Adventures was recorded in the ruins of Pacific Palisades on October 16, 2025. On October 30, the LA Times published a story with the following headline: Days before Palisades Inferno, firefighters were ordered to leave smoldering burn site. This show is made possible by the general store merchants, cigar singers, and fire chiefs of the night who subscribe on Patreon to join their elite society and get twice as many adventures, plus regular smoke break mini episodes on gossip of the day. Subscribe to the show at patreon.com/filthyarmenian. More coming from the Palisades in the weeks and months ahead. Thank you for listening, and to be continued.